Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. This is going to be a very intimate conversation with all of you. I'm David Hunke, Director of Communications and Marketing for the City of Lafayette. Today, we will provide you with valuable information regarding the letter you received on the city's lead service line replacement program. In room 104, down the hall, we have a Hispanic translator available if anyone needs to use that service. If they want to, you can go ahead and leave now with Suzanne. On the agenda are various city employees that will cover all aspects of the program. We will answer all your questions at the end, and if you would go to this mic that's next to the camera to ask those questions. And before you leave, we have consent forms for homeowners' signatures if you are in areas 1, 2, and 3 based on the letter you received. By signing the form at the end of the presentation, you will provide us the go-ahead to have your service line replaced. Our presenters today will be Jackie Chosnick, City Attorney, Steve Moore, Superintendent of Lafayette Waterworks, and here for Andrew Gordon is Maddie Pritchett from Wessler Engineering. To kick things off, please welcome Mayor Tony Rosworski.
Well, good evening, everybody. As Dave said, we're going to have plenty of time to answer all your questions, it looks like. We had a larger crowd over the lunch one that we had, and we thought the evening might be a little bit bigger. So as we get going, please don't be afraid to ask anything you want to ask, because we're going to have plenty of time to answer questions here this evening. So, but for those of you who are here, thank you for coming, and we want to make sure we get as much information out to folks as possible. So just a little introduction to the lead service line replacement program, and a little bit of look back on how we got where we are here today. Lead was regulated for the first time with the lead and copper rule of 1991 by the EPA. Revisions to that rule began to take place in 2021 and were finalized finally in this year in 2024. The new rule includes that utilities are required to develop lead service line replacement line inventories that document the material of service lines in both the utility and the customer side of the service line. Utilities are required to replace all of the lead service lines by 2034. So what that means is the service line that comes from the main up to the meter, and the meter to the individual's home, or where that first joint is in the home, we're required to replace that, and that's the part that we'll be replacing if you in fact have a lead service line. And if you got a letter, our research and investigation shows that you do. So we'll continue that with you. Our utilities are required to sample for lead in the drinking water at locations known to have lead service lines. And if the test results from sampling are above the allowable limit, utilities must notify the public and adjust corrosion control treatment or make filter available to customers. You don't have to sit in the back. There's plenty of room in the front. Told them we're going to have lots of time to answer any questions you might have. So thank you for coming. We appreciate you being here. The Environmental and Protection Agency, the purpose of this rule was to make sure that we reduce people's exposure to lead in the drinking water by requiring the replacement of these lead service lines. So this is something that's happening out in the whole United States. It's not just here, obviously. It's happening with utilities all over the country. What is a lead service line? A service line conveys drinking water from the city's water distribution system into homes. Lead was a common service line material in the past, but the federal government banned the installation of new lead pipes in 1986 due to the potential for adverse health effects. Ownership and maintenance of service lines is typically divided at the location of an outdoor meter pit. And I discussed that a little bit earlier for the folks just walked in. The lead service line replacement program entails the line that goes from the main to the pit, and then from the pit to your home and into the home somewhere where that first joint or shut off is inside the home. So that's our responsibility to replace that. That's what we're designating as the lead service line. What do we do here in Lafayette? The Lafayette Water Works is focused on protecting the health of every household in our community and prides itself on delivering safe, reliable drinking water to every water customer. The Lafayette Water Works complies with all EPA and IDAM drinking water regulations. Regarding the potential of lead in your drinking water, the Lafayette Water Works has not exceeded any of the average drinking water tests that has been performed in over the past 30 years. Waterworks is required to test in approximately 50 homes every 3 years to ensure it meets safety and quality standards, including checking for lead. In all past tests, no lead has been detected in the water in people's homes, indicating that the water supply remains safe and free from lead contamination. The city of Lafayette has approximately 40,000 service lines, and we have decided, or through investigation, that it looks like about 3,200 of those 40,000 have lead service lines that we'll be focusing on. The city is not aware of any homes constructed after 1935 having lead or galvanized service lines. Homes built after 1935 are considered unlikely to have lead service lines based on the construction practices during that time. So a lot of places you had to stop in 1986, but from our investigation, it looks like Lafayette stopped much earlier than that, about 1935, using lead service lines. That's why we're finding most of these in the older neighborhoods that were built before that or during that era. The city used water system records and historical data for when homes were constructed to establish an inventory list of water service line material at addresses throughout the city. We also did water pit investigations, and hydro excavations that we call potholing were completed by the city to further investigate unknown service lines. This was completed during February of 2024 and October of 2024. Lafayette's water is safe, and it has no naturally occurring lead has been detected in our water supply. Lafayette Water Works conducts regular testing and reports findings publicly. Additionally, we do add phosphates are added to prevent corrosion in lead pipes, reducing any associated risk. And I'm going to have Jackie come up in just a moment, but one thing I want to reiterate again here, two things is, this is the lines from our main to your house. It's still possible that people have lead lines inside their residence. That's not what this program replaces. That's the homeowner's responsibility. This is the water getting to your home. And that is why we put those additional phosphates in the water. So if there are people that have that too, that actually helps their lines inside their homes. And we have been doing that for many, many years. So that's just a little background. We've got a series of speakers. And then, like I said, we will stay as long as we need to answer everybody's questions and that they feel here even comfortable that they got the information they needed. With that, I'll turn it over to our city attorney, Jackie Chosney.
Thank you, Mayor. The city did identify 12 areas that contain lead service line, potentially contain lead service lines. You can see on a map over there to my left, the areas, and phase 1 that we are getting ready to start includes areas 1, 2, and 3. In addition, if you haven't visited the city's website yet, there is a searchable online database where you can search by your property address to verify what service line material is at your property and whether or not you are in phase 1 of the project. Phase 1 is the oldest part of the city, and so it qualified for some grant funding and has the highest concentration of lead service lines requiring replacement. There are approximately 867 service lines to be replaced in phase 1. The city will replace as many of those 867 service lines as we can with the funding we have available for phase 1, but we may not get to all 867, but that is our goal. Construction of phase 1 is expected to commence this spring. The overall replacement of the identified lead service lines will take several years to reach all impacted residents, with the goal to have all identified lines replaced within 10 years. Notice will be provided during each phase of the replacement with more specific timelines. As additional funding becomes available to the city, we will continue to progress through the program. For the cost, the city is covering the cost of both the replacement of the line that runs from the main to the meter pit and from the meter pit into the property if the line is replaced as part of our lead service line replacement program. We are funding phase one of this project with a combination $5 million of funding that we received through the state revolving fund. That consisted of a $2.5 million grant and a $2.5 million zero interest loan. We were eligible for the grant because the phase one areas that we're reaching are qualify as disadvantaged communities. The estimated cost to replace all 3,207 service lines is approximately $40 million. The city will use funds secured to complete as many lead service lines possible in phase one, and we will continue to secure additional funding or low-cost loans to continue as we go through the program. If you have a lead service line and have been identified as having a lead service line, you would have received a letter about a week ago, which information you would have been provided. In addition, this notification will be sent out each year if you have a lead service line up until when the program gets to your property and is able to replace the line. In addition, we will provide this information anytime there is a new service, so any new resident of a property with a lead service line will have this information. To go over the details of the actual phase one lead service line replacement program that we're getting ready to launch, I'm going to turn it over to our Waterworks Superintendent, Steve Moore.
Good evening. Thanks for coming, and thank you, Mayor and Jackie. As Jackie said, I am the superintendent for Lafayette Waterworks. So, for pre-construction, each phase of this project, the City of Lafayette will solicit bids from qualified contractors. Each contractor will be required to have their employees' background checked, as they may need to enter your home during the process of these lead line replacements. Additionally, licensed plumbers will be used to ensure that all plumbing work is completely professional and accurate. For the authorization, as the mayor said, there's some forms available for those people living in those first three areas over here at the table. But by signing a right of entry authorization, you grant permission to the City of Lafayette Waterworks and its approved contractors and or subcontractors to access your property for the purpose of replacing your water service line. You also agree to inform and provide Waterworks of any hidden hazards on your property that could affect the work, or provide unimpeded access to your interior shutoff valve. For example, removing any items blocking the area, such as boxes or furniture, and if necessary, cut away drywall to fully expose the valve. 2 weeks prior to the replacement, the contractor will contact you to notify you of the date of your lead service line replacement about 2 weeks ahead of time. On the day of the replacement, the city contractor will replace the lead service line, the water pipe at your property. The workers will enter onto your property and into your residence if necessary to do the replacement. The replacement process will involve boring a new line underground, avoiding trenching whenever possible to minimize disruption. In some cases, limited access to the resident's home may be required to ensure the service line is properly replaced. Any areas that are disturbed, such as sidewalks and landscaping, will be restored after the project is completed. Waterworks will try to leave your property as close to how it was found or better. Waterworks may need to remove fences, shrubs, sidewalks, driveways, stones, sod, flowers, plants, or other permanent things on your property. Waterworks will clean the exterior work areas and do temporary and permanent restoration, which may include, if impacted, replacing brick, concrete, granite, asphalt curbs, sidewalk, driveway and retaining wall areas, overlay and seeding and sodding, and plant replacement as well. Waterworks may schedule the permanent restoration work at a different time. Waterworks will try to avoid trees, shrubs, living plants whenever possible. Replacement notification. Within 24 hours after any portion of the service line has been replaced, the owner will receive education on flushing the water line and also be provided with a water filter, which will last for 6 months. Additionally, if any changes occur in the occupancy within 6 months of the replacement, the resident and/or owner will receive this notification. 3 to 6 months after the replacement, residents will receive information 3 to 6 months after the replacement regarding the opportunity for water sampling. 12 months after the replacement, the waterworks warrants the workmanship of the installation of the service line for a period of 12 months after the completion of the installation, with waterworks liability limited to the cost of repairing or replacing the customer service line. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mayor Wazorski.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Steve, and again, thank you, Jackie. We're going to have information on this program we have a website. We have a frequently asked question area, and we've been kind of adding to that as people have been talking to us. And we're going to do one more meeting for this area on December 5th from 12 o'clock noon to 1 o'clock. And so we're going to keep putting up information on the website. We've been videoed all of these, so the one at City Hall, the one earlier, and this one, so people can go back and watch them and see what we said. Or since people, in the last one, some people had some really good questions that we all worked through, and so we want people to see what questions other citizens we're trying to be as transparent as possible what's taking place. So we'll have all these available for people to look at. So everything today is being videoed. We do ask that if you have any questions, please start with Steve and contact Steve and get the information directly from us. There'll be a lot of people talking about this. There'll be a lot of people on social media next door saying different things, and it's really important that you just come to us and let us explain it to you. We don't want people worrying. We don't want people guessing. Like I said, we're working to be as transparent as possible, and so come to us so we can answer your questions and give you the correct information. It's going to be complicated. I'm sure it's not lost on anyone from just listening that it's going to be complicated. Every house is different. Every yard is different. Every elevation is different. Plants, trees, the way the line goes into your house, whether it's a basement, whether it's a crawl space, whether it goes in some other way into the house. No two homes are probably going to be exactly the same. And obviously we're going to need to get in. We're not going to just go in your house without your permission or if you want to be there. So we're going to have to coordinate all of that with everybody. So we're just asking everybody's patience. It's going to take a lot to try to get 800 of these done. And so we're going to need good communication with everybody as we move forward. But we're hoping to get as many of those done as we can. As Jackie said, we plan to continue the program. It is an important program, and Steve talked about the filters that would be provided and the continual monitoring that will take place. If you sell the house, we're required to notify the next owner. Amy in our utility billing office has done an unbelievable job, and she's going to have a big job going forward because a lot of people move or renters move out. Obviously, some of these properties will be rental properties, so we'll be dealing with the owner of the property and the person that lives there, and so lots and lots of coordination that needs to take place. So please get a hold of us. If you're worried about something, let us meet with you. We can come out there. There's going to be people on site from Wessler Engineering. We'll have people on site in the neighborhood, knocking on doors, talking to people, trying to keep that communication going. So again, thank you for being here. We'll go ahead and open it up to questions. If you have a question, if you could use the mic so it will be recorded. Like I said, we want other people to see what neighbors' concerns were. So if you have any questions, please just step up to the mic and one of us will do our best to answer it for you. Just lay it on us. I know it feels a little awkward, but that's we can record it.
No, this is good. I think I'm okay. Hi, I have all the questions, and I'm sorry for them. Number one, with the data set that you pull for the 50 randomized samples, do you know an approximate percentage of those that were coming from homes that did have lead service lines?
I have to let Steve answer that one.
I'm not sure the exact percentage. Most of them are in homes with lead, but because they're checking for two different things. They're checking also for copper, lead and copper. But I'm going to say probably 80 to 90% of those came from areas where there were lead service lines.
Okay, that's encouraging to know. And is there any way, I am not in phase one, so I'm looking at more than 7 years out. I've been talking with a realtor for the last 6 weeks about selling my home, and unfortunately, this has kind of tanked my home value. Is there any, has there been any looking at this lately, how this is going to impact homeowners and whether or not we're going to work with the assessor to adjust our property values?
Yeah, well, I have to answer that one, and I've got to give a bad answer you're not going to like, but no, I mean, that's not something we're going to do. I mean, if you know, the line is going to get replaced, and so people probably buy homes all the time that have lead service lines that they don't even know have lead service lines.
Yeah, we're just in the uncomfortable position where you've now outed every single property that does have it. So we're the first generation of homeowners that have worthless plumbing.
Well, we're following EPA regulations, and so
people should absolutely know.
follow the law. So, you know, you can, I'm sure you may not want to, you can replace the lead service line at your own expense if you prefer to do that. There is another way that if you, I want to make sure I explain this right, if you do have lead service line, lead in your home, because you probably do. So even when we do replace ours, you're still going to have lead service line plumbing in your house unless you replace all of that.
That makes sense, yes. So for people who opt to do the replacement on their own, are they going to get any kind of tax credit for taking on what will potentially be the city's responsibility in the future?
No, not a tax credit. This is not tax-based. You don't pay any taxes on utilities. Utilities are rate-based. So you pay for how many gallons of water you get and how many gallons of sewage we clean leaving your house. So property taxes are not involved. Utilities are standalone enterprise systems. And so property taxes are not, and the city doesn't collect property taxes, collect through the county. But so no, those are two totally separate. But if they do choose to, there is a way.
So there is the possibility, as we work through our program, we will eventually get to all the properties that have the lead service line. If a property owner chooses to replace the customer portion, if it is lead, on their own at their own expense, that does prompt the city will come in and do without cost replacement of the city-owned portion within 45 days of the homeowner doing that work.
Got it. So we could do part of it and then
Then we will come in and pay it. If you do the other part, then we will come in and do our part within 45 days because you've made an investment, right?
Got it. That makes sense. And then just, you know, I'm the always late person. Hi. So when we were talking about the city-owned portions of the line, that's not the city line that goes down the street, correct? It's just the offshoot parts?
Yeah, the city line that goes down the street is not lead.
Got it.
Is not lead. And we'll be replacing these lines with copper, the ones. And copper has been designated as the highest and best material to use. So we plan to use the highest and best material to replace the line. But the big mains down the road are not copper.
Got it. And there's probably not any benefit to like neighborhoods rallying together. You know, we find there's no benefit to doing more than one home at the same time, right? If we have like 5 people on the block, that's not going to bring more benefit to the neighborhood, right? In any way. If that main line, I'm saying, I was wondering about the main line because if that was replaced, then that would benefit other neighbors kind of thing.
Yeah, but
So
the
if that's
main
not
lines,
part of it,
that's
then-
not part of it. And it's not lead, so it doesn't need to be.
Got it. So no real benefit there. And then is there, aside from the website, which directs us to a few testing facilities, is there any type of resource to folks, right? Like I'm selling my home because I can't afford to live anymore. And so having additional expenses right now is a real burden. And so just the thought of trying to protect my kid, I'd like to know of some good resources that I could get to test for her.
Well, yeah, we can do extra, but I do, I'm gonna let Steve, I do want to, we've been testing and we have found there is no natural occurring lead in our water, and none of our tests in 30 years has ever been over the.
Keep using the word naturally occurring lead. Can you tell me more about that phrase? It's the third time I've heard it, so.
Lead can occur naturally in water, and then you can have lead that comes from having lead pipes. Got it. Right? So there's two different ways. That's why we treat both places and why we test those houses. And we'll do testing for you. If you're nervous, we'll come out and test for you, but I'll let Steve explain that. Awesome. We don't want you nervous. We'll come out and test for you.
I'm just nervous for my kid,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, if you would like to have some individual testing, it's be no cost to you. I could get your name and address, and I'll have my lab technician. They drop off a water bottle to your residence in a bag with instructions, and you actually draw the sample from your faucet, and there's instructions on how to do that. We hang that on the doorknob or somewhere near the front door. You find that, take it in, follow the instructions, then you put it right back where you got it, and we come back by and pick it up.
That's awesome.
We send it out to a lab, and then we provide the results back to you too as soon as we get them in. So
Awesome. And then just to make sure I'm not confused on that, that test would actually indicate whether I had lead in any pipe leading up to that faucet. So it doesn't necessarily distinguish between in-home versus city line. It'll just, all together, it'll test it. I mean, you know, hey, I want to know anyway, right? Like, I wasn't even thinking about it.
and if you look at the EPA website, it's a first draw technique. And they want you to pull that sample first thing in the morning after your pipes have set static for the whole night for like an 8-hour period with no water flowing. They want the most likely time that there would be a presence of lead in that water. So that would be it. When the water's just setting static in that line, you put the bottle under the cold water faucet, turn it on, and fill the bottle up to the black line, and then put the lid back on, set it on the front porch. It's that simple.
Over. And then that goes to like an EPA-approved laboratory, like
Absolutely.
office?
It goes to the lab that we use for our testing. So it is an EPA-approved lab, yes.
Hi, Maddie Pritchett with Westler. There is also, I believe it's funded through the EPA. If you look online, you're able to test the blood of students in public schools also. I'm not too sure about the funding on that. I know the city isn't responsible for covering that, but I think that might be covered, so you might look into it.
Check maybe just like a Google for, I'm saying this all very out loud for the recording, right? We could Google EPA and lead testing, blood or something.
It's on the website as well.
That would be awesome. Yeah, some like resources, or even if there's maybe some like grant opportunities for different population segments that might be able to get some outside grant funding on their own. Any of those kind of resources would be really helpful. Cool. Thank you. I think that's about all.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yep, if you think of anything else, just let us know. All right. Anybody else have any questions this evening? Okay. Well, thank you very much. If you're inclined to, we'd ask that maybe that you go over and look at the paperwork for the right of entry that would give us the authority to come on your property and actually do the project. It doesn't give us the right just to barrel into your house or anything, but just gives us the right to be moving forward with the project and be able to come on your property and start making contact with you about that and how that might look, particularly if you're in the first area. And I don't know how many of you for sure are in the first. Obviously, you guys are not in the first area, but I don't know if you guys are in the first area or not. But if you are and you're interested in looking at the right of entry paperwork, we would greatly appreciate it. Yes.
And we do have a computer system here so that if you are not sure if you are in phase one of this project, you can go over to the table, provide the address, and we will be able to look it up and confirm whether or not you are in phase one of the project.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll conclude the meeting. Thank you very much.